This is Pit Lane 101 for Racewalk officials training. I'm Susan Heiser-Watley from South Carolina Association. What is a pit lane? A pit lane is a penalty area that athletes must pass through once they receive a third red card. A time penalty is awarded and the athlete must remain in the pit lane area until their penalty time is up. The athlete must receive a fourth red card to be disqualified. The pit lane should only be used with a full complement of judges. USATF competition rules address the use of the pit lane. Here's a pit lane, one of the first pit lanes used in 2014. Why pit lane? The IAAF Council added the pit lane rule as a way of reducing, if not eliminating, disqualifications altogether. In 2014, the pit lane rule was trialed in youth events. 2015-2016, the pit lane was required for international youth races. 2017 and on, the national and area competitions are being encouraged to use a pit lane. And in May 2016, the IAAF Council approved extending the pit lane to senior events. So a pit lane is to be used at the IAAF World Racewalking Team Championship from 2018. How long in the pit lane? The IAAF has approved the following penalty times for international competition. Up to and including 5K is 30 seconds. Up to and including 10K, 60 seconds. Up to and including 20K, 120 seconds. Up to and including 30K, 180 seconds. Up to and including 40K, 240 seconds. Up to and including 50K, 300 seconds. Where to locate the pit lane? Here's a schematic of where to locate a pit lane on a track. It's to start 80 meters from the finish line. It's to be 10 meters in length. It's to cover lanes 5, 6, and 7. Entrances at both ends. In close proximity with the recorder and the DQ board so that the chief judge can direct the athlete into the pit lane. Here's a real life situation of the pit lane location. You've got, it is before 80 meters before the finish line. You have entrances at either end. The DQ board is in front of the entry. You've got cones and small barriers to mark the area. And a road course would look similar depending on the constraints of the road. Here is the layout that they used for the Rome Junior Racewalk. You can see the pit lane cones. And you've got the DQ board right in front of the pit lane area. Who pit lanes? You need at least 2 additional officials to manage the pit lane in addition to the standard racewalk officials. One official is to manage the operation of the penalty area and record pit lane activity. A second official would be the timer and to start the time penalty clock and notify the athlete when their penalty has ended. 2 timers may be needed for larger races. Each racewalk judge should have an assigned runner to facilitate quick response. This is in addition to some events just have 1 or 2 runners. You should have 1 for every racewalk official in this case. The recorder and the DQ board official needs to be available to notify the judge and pit lane officials of the impending activity, and the chief judge or assistant must communicate the penalty to the athlete concerned. How to pit lane. Here again is a layout of the pit lane with the required officials in place, close proximity to the recorder, close proximity to the DQ board. Okay, so how it works. When an athlete receives 3 red cards, the recorder notifies the chief judge or their assistant, At the first opportunity, the chief judge or their assistant shows the concerned athlete the time penalty paddle and directs them into the pit lane. As the athlete enters the pit lane timer immediately starts the penalty timer, and the pit lane official notes the real time of the athlete's entry as well as their hip number and bib number on the pit lane timesheet. When 10 seconds remain on the penalty, the pit lane timer shows the athlete a card or paddle to notify them and starts the countdown. When the penalty time has fully expired, the timer releases the athlete to re-enter the race. However, there's additional considerations with judging in the pit lane. The athlete is not judged in the pit lane. The athlete can stop or continue moving inside the penalty area. No benches, no access to refreshments, no drinking, sponging, or any other kind of assistance is permitted in the pit lane. However, communication with the coach is allowed. An athlete who fails to enter the pit lane when required to do so shall be disqualified. An athlete who receives 4 or more red cards before stopping in the penalty area shall be disqualified. If after receiving a penalty for a third red card, the athlete receives at least one additional red card from a judge who has not previously written one, they shall be disqualified. If an athlete receives the third red card at a late stage of the race and it's not possible for the chief judge or their assistant to notify the athlete that they must stop in the pit lane, then the athlete shall finish the race and the time penalty shall be added to their official time. Equipment for the pit lane. You're going to need pit lane paddles, a 10-second warning paddle or card, a countdown timer or watches, pit lane timesheet, cones, flags, or other barriers to mark out the pit lane, and a DQ board with spaces for 4 marks. Here's the pit lane paddles with the time penalties noted and the 10-second warning paddles. You can either have them made up nice, or you can just use paper. Here's one with paper stapled around a yellow paddle. That works just fine. Timers. I find a countdown timer with a 3-second warning and end beep is the best. It's foolproof. It starts and stops on that time and remembers the countdown, so it's ready to be used again. You can get countdown timers with just an end beep, but those work as well. Stopwatches are not preferred because they count up. There's no warnings or beeps, so you have to pay close attention the whole time. No phones are to be used for timing. Phones are not allowed on the track or field of play under any circumstances. A DQ board with spaces for 4 red cards. Paperwork. Here's the sample of the pit lane timesheet that is found online. The important information is the pit lane officials' names and certification numbers. Those are provided at the bottom of the sheet. The date, event name, distance, and gender at the top of the sheet. The penalty time on the top of the sheet as well. The race start time in real time. The bib and hip number of the athlete as they enter the pit lane, the time in and time out in real time of the athlete, and if an athlete is not able to serve their time in the pit lane, but they do have 3 red cards, you can add at the bottom the final time with the penalty for the athlete, with the penalty added. To pit lane or not to pit lane. Currently, the pit lane is required for all junior international competitions and any national qualifiers for junior international events. It's recommended for national youth and junior races of 3,000 meters or more. It may be added to senior international qualifiers for 2017 and 2018. All other applications are optional and/or as determined by the Racewalk committee. Here are resources for the pit lane. You can find them on the the officials links for USATF Racewalking. We also have this video is presented on the tinyurl.com/walk 2020. That's the Caminata Racewalking educational video site. The information in this presentation is also provided in the IAAF Racewalk guidelines. Thank you for your time.